During the first few weeks of Just Peace, I received a phone call from a layperson in a church in Minnesota. And he said that they had had all kinds of problems with their church. Lots of conflict. Nothing ever happened at meetings. Everything happened in the parking lot, on the phone, through the internet, and it was a deeply conflicted church. And they decided to study Matthew 18 and to develop a relational covenant as to how they want to be treated out of the study of Matthew 18. He said it was remarkable. He said it changed the whole culture of the church, and they never had any conflict after that. Well, that's the only part of his story I don't believe. I'm sure they had conflict, but what he's telling me is that it was dealt with constructively. We have come to believe that developing a relational covenant is one of the most important things we can do to prevent destructive conflict. We're talking about in circles, conflict in conflicted situations, but we're also talking about in the life of churches and their various committees like the Pastor Parish Relations Committee. We're talking about in the life of conferences and even in the life of the General Conference. And we've worked on all these levels with folks trying to establish a relational covenant as to how they want to be treated by each other, how they want to be treated and how they were willing to treat others. And ultimately, it's all about respect. How do we want to be treated relates to how we want to be respected. And we all want to be respected. And the working out a relational covenant together, we did this in the School of Theology at BU, is trying to determine what are our values and how we can practically express those in ways that guide our conduct with each other. I learned a story from Stephen Bryan, who was the publisher for The Upper Room. It's a story about this community, this church, that had dwindled down to 5 members. And they realized that they didn't have long to exist, and they were all older. And one of them decided to go visit this rabbi who lived nearby. And he asked him, "What advice do you have? What wisdom do you have for us? How can we make our church thrive again?" And the rabbi said, I'm having my own problems. I don't have any advice for you, any wisdom for you." This person kept coming to him and finally said, "I do have one piece of advice, one piece of wisdom. One of you is the Messiah." And the older gentleman found this to be incredulous, and but he went back and he decided, well, he'd at least share it with the other 4 members, and they began to think about it. And they began to wonder, well, what if Joe is the Messiah or Sarah is the Messiah? And they began to treat each other with a great deal more respect. And they also began to think, well, what if I am the Messiah? And they began to treat themselves with greater respect. And people began to observe that there was a change in this church. There was this warmth, this hospitality, this respect. And people began to say, I want to be a part of that. And the church grew and grew and grew, all because they learned to respect each other. This is what relational covenants are about. It is one of the most important things we should do at all levels of our life together.